Hey y'all, let's take a look at what we've been working on in class with solving two-step equations. I know there's just a couple of people who are still a little confused on how this works. When we get into equations, we need to remember the main goal is to get this variable by itself. That variable represents an unknown number. It's like a number wearing a costume. We got to figure out what that number is. Now, because two-step equations are titled as such, it means there's going to be two things we're going to do to solve them. Thing number one is we're going to be almost always adding or subtracting. Thing number two, we're going to be multiplying or dividing. How we decide which of these to use depends on the operations that the equation is showing us. So let's take a look at this first example. This equation reads 2x minus 6 equals 8. It's showing us multiplication and subtraction. So the first thing we're going to do is move the number away from the variable first. If I look at this equal sign, that acts as my wall, so I actually have two sides of my equation. The number away from the variable would be this negative 6. Now, this equation again is showing us subtraction. We have to undo that subtraction, meaning we're going to do the opposite or inverse operation of subtraction, which is shown. The opposite of subtraction, or the way we undo subtraction, is by adding. So I'm going to add 6 to get rid of this 6. Now, the rule with equations, whatever I do to one side, I have to do the same thing to the other. So on the other side of that equal sign, I'm going to add 6 again. The purpose to do that is to make these go away. I did not do anything with that 2x, so I'm going to bring it back down. 8 plus 6 gives me 14. Final step is to move the number with the variable. I'm going to do this by multiplying or dividing. This right here, this coefficient of 2, being right next to the x, means there's going to be 2 of those x's. 2 times something gives me 14. Well, since it's showing me multiplication, the inverse operation for multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. When I do that, 14 divided by 2 gives me 7. So I end up with x equals 7. I can check this by plugging this 7 back into my equation if I want to see if I did it right. So I would take that 2 times 7 is 14, minus 6 is 8, which gives me that 8, so I know I did my problem correctly. Let's look at another example. This one right here says negative 3y plus 4 equals 16. To begin solving this operation being shown is addition. So the opposite of that's going to be subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. That eliminates these. I'm going to bring down this negative 3y. Do not forget to carry that negative. It's super important. 16 minus 4 gives me 12. Final step, this says negative 3 divided by y, or times y, equals 12. So the opposite is to divide both sides by negative 3. So I end up with y equals negative 4. Don't forget to carry that negative. And let's do one more. You've seen one like this probably in Math Excel. Don't get scared by that fraction right there. Remember, a fraction is really just a division problem in disguise. So if I look at this equation, let's deal with what we're comfortable with first, this plus 2. To get rid of this plus 2, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides of my equation. That leaves me with x over 5 equals 8. Now, this doesn't mean a fraction. This means x divided by 5. So if it's showing me division, the opposite of division, is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by that number with the variable. That means x is going to equal 40. So that's how you solve two-step equations. Good luck.